Good morning. We've got a couple minutes before the meeting starts. We have a sign-up sheet on the table. One bill on the agenda this morning. Derek McCullum's House Bill 663. Then we have a presentation after that. So if anybody wants to sign up. Well, good morning. It is 8 o'clock. I'm going to call this meeting of the Natural Resources Subcommittee, Environmental Quality, to order. I'm going to ask Chairman Smith if he will open in prayer for us this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If y'all would pray with me. Lord, do thank you for the rain that you're sending us today. We ask that you be with us. You know every heart in this room. You know the needs, the physical needs that we have, and people at home that are sick, and we ask that you take care of them. Lead, guide, and direct us. Help us to see your will and be with our families and our children and grandchildren back home. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you. Like I said, we have one bill on the agenda this morning. We have a substitute to House Bill 663. I see Representative McCullum's here. I'm going to turn it over to Representative McCullum and let him tell us what the LC number of the sub is and explain the changes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee. This is HB 663 LC 394980S. So obviously we heard this. We had EPD. We made some changes to it to satisfy them. The department's really good with it. What this does is amends the code section dealing with the fee charge for this emission testing. The law provides the fee and charge may be a minimum of $10 and a maximum of $35. It's currently $25. It hasn't been changed since '92. These guys, they hadn't had a raise, and obviously rents went up, equipment's went up, all these things have went up. This is something that the EPD, we need for the state. These are small businesses. They are owned by minorities, women, and veterans. This is something that's been vetted for years now, about 3 or 4 years, and the EPD also one change they wanted to do. What we're going to do is do the $35, and then we're going to put it in the department so the DNR board can change it to the CPI, so they'll have purview over changing up or down as far as the CPI. That's pretty much the bill. Love to have your consideration on it if there's any questions.
All right, and I think the key there is so they may adjust it. It's not automatically adjusted. So that's not a guarantee. It will
That's
go
correct.
up every year.
Yes.
So it may if they deem necessary.
Yes.
So do we have any questions for the author? Seeing none, what's the will of the committee?
To pass.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We've got a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. You have passed on to full committee, and I'm now going to adjourn the subcommittee of environmental quality and turn it over to the full committee. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. We now have the full committee meeting, calling it to order, and I understand we already had the prayer. So your bill is now before the full committee. We need a report from the subcommittee.
Madam Chair, the Environmental Quality Subcommittee met and passed House Bill 663 out unanimously. Unanimously. Spit out.
Everybody agreed.
Everybody was in favor.
Yeah. Wait a minute. You have my morning now. This
yeah.
is how my morning's going.
I need another cup of coffee.
And so the posture of the committee, I don't believe we have any newcomers. If you just briefly summarize what you're doing, because it's already been vetted. Okay, you're on.
This bill is, pull up my notes again. You'd think that I would know it. I just said it's, this bill amends the, let me drink some of my coffee.
It's not the 13th, but it feels like it today.
I'm not going to go through my spiel again. This changes the inspection from, it's 10 to 25 now. It raises to 35, and then it also gives the DNR board a opportunity. They may adjust the rate tied to the CPI. That's pretty much what the bill does. They haven't had a raise since '92, and so that's
Okay,
it.
thank you. You have
Thank
one
you.
question. Just state your name.
Lauren McDonald, Madam Chair, I'm really trying to help everybody here. I want to make a motion to pass quickly.
All right, is there a second? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we have kind of a bad weather day today, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Give you a chance to collect your things and our other presenters to come up. And to those who are watching, this is the point of the session when a lot of the bills are active and have moved to full committee. So other committees that are meeting might be texting us they need a quorum. And so you'll see the in and out of committee meetings this morning. But I would love to call EPD up to just brief our committee on everything that you're doing, and you've already introduced some new staff, but if you'll just start at the beginning for us. And while you're getting settled, our House actually comes to order. We convene at 9 o'clock. So I will adjourn this meeting at 8:45 to give y'all a chance to get over there. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning. Y'all ready? Okay, so if you will go ahead and present.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to talk some about EPD, and I think the subcommittee chair that prayed for the rain, we appreciate that, not only for the drought, but also it helps air quality too as well, for the PM 2.5 in there at this time of year. We're going to talk about that, but first I wanted to bring some sad news to you all as a committee. I want to take a moment and recognize and honor a member of the DNR family that unfortunately passed away recently. On February 16th, we lost
Wait a
her.
minute, we're going to stand.
Well,
ahead.
it'll be a little longer than that, I think.
No, we're going, this is out of respect for
Okay,
the person.
so we lost Harold Rehaas at
Oh,
the
my.
age of 81. Harold was a mentor to me and many others at EPD for over 13 years, and he continued even as he went to the private sector. Harold was first hired by the state of Georgia as a water engineer in '69, the day before Earth Day, when the environmental movement began really in fast thing. He worked in the tiny water quality control office, testing water samples and all, and then he went on to EPD and DNR in 1972 when it was established. When he started, he was doing water sampling and figuring out where pollution came from. He quoted at that time, only a third of cities had sewage treatment and less than 3% of industries did. The whole Chattahoochee and Flint rivers used to be septic when I first started working here. From 81 to 84, Harold left state government to work at Jordan, Jones & Goulding, returning in 1984 when he became the assistant director of EPD under his mentor Leonard Ledbetter. In 1999, when Leonard left for state government, Governor Miller chose Harold to succeed Leonard as EPD's third director. He'd done that for 12 years and did a lot of work here in this committee and all. After 12 years, he left and went to Joe Tanner and Associates, where he continued in the private sector, helping us with issues such as water wars, coal combustion residuals, water quality, water quantity. Our state owes a lot to Harold for his leadership in working to have clean air, land, and water, ultimately creating healthier lives for all Georgians. Please keep Diane, his family, his wife, his family, and friends in your thoughts and prayers if we can. I just received arrangements. It will be, Harold had moved to Florida, and he had come up a few weeks ago and sort of said goodbye to folks that he
Wow.
knew this was coming. And I talked with Leonard Ledbetter, and he said he looked really good that day, so I thought he would be around a while, but he was true in that. But Tuesday, April 14th, there'll be a memorial service for Harold at A.S. Turner and Sons in Decatur. The time has not been determined yet. I will make sure that the committee knows that. So thank y'all for that.
Thank you. We'll just have a brief moment of silence.
Yes, ma'am.
Amen. Thank you, committee. Thank you for telling us that. I was very much a newcomer to the General Assembly. I started serving in 1997, and I got appointed to Natural Resource and Environment, and I didn't know the ropes at all. And my mentor was Harold Reheis. He had a calm way about him, a sense of humor, and you always had to look up to him because how tall was he? He was very tall.
6'4", yeah.
Yeah, I looked up to him all that time. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. And then now we will just turn it over to you for presentation, and I think we'll wait till later to ask questions if y'all just go through your presentation.
Yes, ma'am. It shouldn't be too long to get y'all to the house. Well, Sonia's got 30, 40 minutes. I don't know. Okay, thank you again. I'm Jeff Count. I'm the Director of the Environmental Protection Division. Our mission is to protect and restore Georgia's environment. We take the lead in ensuring clean air, water, and land. With our partners, including you all, we pursue a sustainable environment that provides a foundation for a vibrant economy and healthy communities. Georgia's environment is healthy and sustainable, not like Harold found it then, but we've done a lot of work. Our natural resources are managed to meet the needs of current and future generations. All Georgians understand the importance of a healthy and sustainable environment and act and protect to restore it. EPD is responsive, effective, and efficient. Associates in EPD are valued and empowered to use their expertise and creativity as leaders in protecting Georgia's environment. So my role here today is to sort of introduce you to our leadership team that if you need guidance on, it'd be great. You have the PowerPoint in front of you. Anna says we're having some technical difficulties with the stream part, but there's the whole team there, and I'll go through that. This is new and familiar. A lot of these folks have been here, but we've moved roles here recently, so I wanted to go through that. Who's new in the director's office? To my right is Anya Trushinsky. I try that every time to make sure I'm trying to say it correctly, but Anya has been my deputy director since May, I believe, of this past year. Before that, she was in our water protection branch and worked as the chief there for many years, and she's currently over our watershed protection branch, our land protection branch, our air protection branch, and district operations, and she will give a further on that as later. Next is Chuck Mueller, who was the land chief up until last May, and he then moved up with me, and he's our support services director. He's over our lab that does a lot of drinking water sampling and many other things. Out at Peachtree Corners, he's over our information technology, our human resources, and our financial services. They're all back here, right on my line back here. They're all good. Next, I want to introduce Veronica Craw. She is our watershed protection branch chief, and she's been with us about 10 years in various roles and a lot of things, but she's also had over 20 years in environmental regulation over water. And so she's over all the water programs that you got there in your PowerPoint. And she's on the road too. We also have Sarah Visser that's back here. She is the chief of our land protection branch. A lot of these happened in May of this past year. Sarah, previous to that, was our assistant branch chief in land, and before that, she was the executive director of Keep Georgia Beautiful. So you probably have seen her previously when that's been about 9 years ago when she moved over to EPD. Then we have our air protection chief, Jim Borland. He was also, I think, the assistant director coming up until, when did Jim become?
3 years ago.
3 years. You become?
Branch chief.
Okay, wow, time flies when you're having fun. Yes, that's exactly right. And he's the one that reminded me that the rain this morning also helps with PM 2.5 air quality. So, we always have to find the blessings in our rain. And also I have Jim Cooley, who's head of our district offices, and he's been several years, 6 or 7 years, leading our district office and our emergency response team for the state. So a little bit about our organization. EPD has over 700 full-time employees. They're mainly environmental specialists, engineers, geologists, lab science, and modelers. We have a lot of mostly STEM employees. I think our full-time equivalent right now is 735 folks. We have branches in administration across the road at the East Loppy Floyd Tower and also at our trade port office out by the airport. We have 7 district offices in Albany, Athens, Atlanta, Augusta, Brunswick, Cartersville, and Macon, and they handle many complaints, our emergency response inspections and compliance activities. And like I said, our laboratory is in Peachtree Corners, and we also have agricultural water permitting offices in Tifton and Dawson, Georgia. Our funding, we have a lot of varied funding. It's a very complex budget with over 50 revenue sources, including state appropriated funds. The fiscal year base right now is over $35 million in state funds. We have $11.7 million in our Hazardous Waste Trust Fund and $9.8 million our Solid Waste Trust Fund. We also have a underground storage tank fund that helps clean up releases from underground tanks around the state. Our federal funds include RCRA, Hazardous Waste Management Support Grants, CERCLA grants, which I don't even know this morning what that means. It's hazardous waste, or Superfund issues, cleanup and remediation grants, Superfund. We have Safe Drinking Water Act, Water System Supervision grants. We have Clean Water, Water Quality Management grants. We have GEMA grants and Clean Air Monitoring and Control grants. And like I said, the other fund is our underground storage tank fees and our I&M fees that are part of the bill that you just heard a moment ago. Fees collected by EPD but remitted to Treasury include scrap tire fees, solid waste fees, hazardous waste fees, and consent order penalties as well. Now, I'm going to turn it over to our much better speaker, my Deputy Director, Anya.
All right, no pressure. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for giving me some time to kind of cover the 3 branches broken up by the media types, air, land, and water, and the district offices and lab that play a very important role in ensuring compliance and understanding of I'm in water mode still, having been the water branch chief for a couple of years, understanding our natural resources. So EPD protects air quality by conducting air monitoring, issuing permits, and ensuring compliance, managing mobile area sources, and completing strategic air planning activities. Many of EPD's air programs are related to our delegation under the Clean Air Act. EPD regulates 6 criteria air pollutants, 188 hazardous air pollutants, and as of now, greenhouse gases. EPD conducts monitoring at 34 locations in 25 counties all across the state for about 200 air pollutants. This data sets the foundation to inform our permitting and planning work. The data is also used for forecasting the daily air quality index. So you ever look to see what color the air, yellow, green, orange, what that air quality is? That comes from the work that comes from the air protection branch. EPD's air planning work is an important strategic tool that allows EPD to focus resources on the most pressing air pollution issues. On the regulatory side, EPD issues permits for stationary sources like factories or power plants with specific requirements based on the facility and emissions. The permits are written by our engineers and informed by complex technical models. EPD also evaluates and controls the emissions of mobile and area sources. We've talked a lot about the mobile sources today with the bill that was just presented. Approximately 3 million vehicles are tested each year at nearly 700 vehicle stations. For all of these sources, EPD conducts compliance inspections and reviews and responds to complaints. In addition to these programs, the Air Protection Branch also hosts the State Climatologist Office. So that's where we get a lot of the important information about drought and predictions of climate conditions, and a radiation program that supports radioactive material users, like hospitals, and serves as the primary responders to incidents at nuclear power plants. So they interface a lot with GEMA, with our partners over at, for example, Plant Vogel, a really important program. Moving on to the Land Protection Branch, EPD protects land by managing the treatment, processing, storage, disposal, and cleanup of solid and hazardous waste. EPD has programs for landfills, industries, and contaminated sites. EPD also oversees recovered material, underground storage tanks, scrap tire cleanups, lead-based paint and asbestos, and surface mining. Permitting and compliance are a significant part of the work of the Land Protection Branch. They have very many permittees that cover the whole range, all the way from gas station owners to quarries, landfills, and large industrial sites. The land branch conducts less monitoring and modeling than the other two branches, with the exception of the risk assessment group. That really helps us understand across the whole division when questions about human health risk come up. The land branch has several programs that are dedicated to helping address on-the-ground issues, and that's really where a lot of the work is done and where a lot of the money goes. EPD uses the Hazardous Waste Trust Fund to fund the investigation and cleanup of abandoned sites on the hazardous site inventory. That fund also supports the evaluation of hazardous sites, the development of that inventory, and then working with entities to clean these sites up. A part of the Hazardous Waste Trust Fund is also used to reimburse local governments for the investigation and cleanup work related to eligible landfills that are on that inventory. The Solid Waste Trust Fund, which is funded by a fee on the sale of new tires, is used to clean up scrap tires, support statewide recycling initiatives, and ensure the safe management of abandoned landfills. Some of this work is done through the administration of grants to local governments, and examples of the projects funded include the construction of a center for hard-to-recycle materials, purchase of a cardboard compactor, and resurfacing playgrounds with rubberized materials. If you guys have ever been to one of those, it's kind of fun and spongy. Finally, the Watershed Protection Branch protects and restores the state's waters through regulatory, grant monitoring, and planning programs. EPD conducts monitoring at hundreds of locations across the state. In addition to EPD's monitoring, partner groups like environmental organizations, school groups, and local governments collect and submit data to EPD. With the right QA in place and the right agreements, some of this data can be used for regulatory purposes, but all of the data is really informative. This data helps EPD understand water quality in Georgia and whether our water bodies are supporting their uses or whether they're impaired. If a water body is impaired, EPD prioritizes those waters and then develops a plan for how to fix them. To do so, EPD issues wastewater discharge permits. These permits are informed by the type of wastewater being discharged and the quality of the water receiving that discharge. We also issue land application system permits. These are no discharge permits where treated wastewater is sprayed on a field and then infiltrated into the ground. These permits include protections for groundwater. In addition to wastewater, EPD regulates stormwater through permits and grants. The grants focus on non-point source pollution. So right now, when it's raining, you're seeing a lot of runoff off the roads, off of sidewalks. That right there is non-point source pollution. So we've got a number of programs dedicated to addressing that specifically, either through permits or grants. We also have programs like our Stream Buffer Variance Program to ensure broader protection of our streams and rivers. And our work with FEMA on floodplain mapping and our Safe Dams permitting program ensure that people are protected from floods and dam breaches. EPD also issues permits for water withdrawal from surface and groundwaters. Industries, municipalities, and farmers must apply for a permit if they wish to withdraw 100,000 gallons or more per day. These permits allow people the reasonable use of the water under their land or across their land while protecting other users and the water resource. EPD also issues drinking water permits to public water systems. These permits include requirements and limits that protect human health and ensure the adequate operation of the system. All this gets pulled together through the regional water planning process, which we talked about a lot at the beginning of session. This is a really important process that allows water users to get together in their region, have important conversations, and work together to identify water resource challenges and fix them. The branches do a lot of work, but EPD's main boots on the ground are our district offices. The men and women in these offices are usually the first to respond to complaints. They also conduct most of the compliance work on air, land, and water across the state. Last year, the district offices received around 3,200 complaints and conducted about 2,500 compliance inspections. The district offices also, that broad umbrella also includes the emergency response team. When we have a big emergency in the state, that team goes out and responds. So you can imagine, for example, if the Golden Race several years ago, emergency response team was very plugged into that. Finally, EPD and some of Georgia's public water systems are supported by the lab in Peachtree Corners. These scientists conduct analysis on air, soil, and water samples. EPD's lab has cutting-edge technology, and they are an extremely valuable resource for our public water systems on a number of different pollutants, ranging from sediment all the way up to PFAS. There's a broad range of capability there at the lab. And that closes out sort of my broad overview of our branches, district office, and lab operations.
Madam Chair, could I add, I missed one of my team here, and the reason is because she didn't want her own slide, but we also have Katie Bloomfield, who is our External Affairs and Communications Director, and y'all interface with her a lot. But like I said, I asked her this morning to have her own slide, and she didn't want it. So that concludes it. And the final slide, the turkeys, is not Anya's picture, even though it's Jeff's picture, because it's next month, we'll go into the season, and I'm already scouting. But Anya here recently became a quail hunter in Georgia. So I'm very excited for her becoming an outdoor person in this state. So thank you. We'll be happy to answer any questions for you.
Thank you. First of all, just a comment on your slide, your briefing. It helps all of us to have the photos. So I want to thank you so much for that. So, and then secondly, when the committee in their districts have a problem with some matter that might come before y'all, I have found that it's much easier just to call your office, and rather than me try and solve it, I turn it over to y'all. And that doesn't mean you're passing the buck. It just means you found somebody who knows what to do. So that's a huge resource. We all of us have issues, not issues, constituent concerns with things in the area. And so this is a streamlined efficiency to get response. Then you're not the one trying to explain something, you're also trying to learn about. So I want to thank y'all for y'all's responsiveness. And to that point, if when time permits, if our legislators on this committee could find out which district they're in and the district name, that will help them as well. And then the last thing, explain the relationship between EPD and EPA, because several years on and off, we've had to find ways to do what EPA wants us to do and respect our citizens here. So if you'll just explain that, then we'll go to other questions.
Yes, ma'am. So many of our environmental statutes come from EPA. We have 5 major federal, or is it 6 now?
It's 5.
5 major federal statutes that y'all passed state laws, and then we pass rules because we need to maintain, the state of Georgia wants to maintain primacy to implement those acts. The Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act, Safe Drinking Water Act.
RCRA.
What we learned here recently, the Solid Waste Disposal Act of 1965 is where we get RCRA, which is hazardous waste, Subtitle D, which is solid waste, and Subtitle I, which is underground tanks. And we also implement some of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission's laws here in Georgia. So our relationship is we have grants, state and territorial assistance grants, to run those programs based on these federal statutes. So we're the boots on the ground working in concert with EPA to implement those things in Georgia. And we want to have those programs because we believe being on the ground here, we can be more efficient and more responsive to our partners, to our permittees, to the citizens. So we maintain through our work with them and the money they give us, we maintain the primacy for all those programs. Currently, the only major program that you would probably, there are some small ones we do not have primacy. The major program we don't have primacy in is the federal 404 permitting, which is under the Army Corps of Engineers and EPA. We do some work for them as far as mapping and things like that, but they implement the 404 permitting program. And I think there's only 3 states that implement the 404 permit in the country. So that's mainly they do a lot of science for us as well. We don't have a science arm, so a lot of the things like PFAS and all those limits and all were based on science that EPA did. So we rely on them a lot for that, for funding, for technical assistance, for research, science, and that's our work. We work very closely with them. I think next week we normally have water state directors. I think Veronica's having a water state directors meeting with EPA. We're in Region 4. There's 8 states, so we'll have all the water chiefs there to do that next week. So we do that periodically all year long, and that's sort of the short. It's much more than that, but we rely on them heavily. So last fall, when there was the government shutdown, our grants were shut down, and we were trying to make sure. Luckily, EPA does have a budget now under Congress and the President, so we don't have that issue as much. But currently, some of our mapping under FEMA, it's currently closed at the moment, but that's because it's under Department of Homeland Security. But right now, our funding, we feel good, and that's our relationship. A lot of meetings, we have a state commissioners meeting every 6 months, and it's in May. That's where all state commissioners come, me and the other 7, and meet with EPA Region 4 Administrator.
Thank you for that. It's a lot. But
Yes.
if our state is not in compliance with EPA, then that becomes problematic for our citizens because a lot of our businesses or industries could be temporarily shut down. So I wanted people to understand the ladder and how it works. Thank heavens in Georgia it's up and down the ladder. Now, let's go to our questions. Number 17, state your name and ask your question.
Yes, ma'am. John Corbett, District 174. Comment and a couple questions, if I may, Madam Chair. One, I just want to thank Director Cowan for his responsiveness every time I have an issue. Sometime I text him kind of early in the morning for most people, but I get a response immediately. I mean, it's just amazing. So he gets up early. He's on the job way before normal people get up. So I appreciate that. The question you talking on your employees, 735 employees, employee retention. How is that? Do we have a big turnover? It seems like you got a lot of long-term employees who must be doing something right.
So, like other agencies, we're doing much better now. I think we're at about a 9.7% turnover rate. But back during COVID, we were up to in the 23, 24% turnover rate. We attribute a lot of that to the help that the governor and the legislature gave us for the cost of living adjustments to raise our salaries to keep folks there. We did go through a time where a lot of folks, EPA, industry, other folks were hiring our good folks and all. That's sort of calmed down for now. There's still work to do. It's never an ending, but the funny thing is, I don't know if y'all know my history. I started in 1990 with EPD, Department of Natural Resources. In 2018, I moved over to State Parks for 5 years. And so during that time, they took a lot of our employees, but during that time, so I had worked 28 years, and when I come back after 5 years, I think about 50 or 60% of our agency had turned over. So we have a lot of new and young folks, but we're having pretty good success recruiting them now. So we are thankful to our university system to getting good qualified applicants for us to look for.
Right. One more of them, maybe. The photo of these 3 pests scratching in the dirt here, we need to know the location.
It's an undisclosed location.
And I think we have a study committee mid-March.
I love a study committee. Yes, sir. I'll get that. I'll get with you on that. Yes, sir. The commissioner might be listening and want to know that location. So,
All right, Anya, that's your next prey that you go after. Number 24.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Director and Anya, for being here. I've got a question. I think a lot of us are getting questions back in our districts. I know I am about large data centers, and we're working. Probably the number one is the power, and we're working on that up here with some bills. And of course, the siting. That's our commissioners. But the other issue is water. They get a lot of questions about water usage along the siting of some of these data centers. Tell me y'all's role and what answer we could give some constituents if they have that concern on a particular site in our district.
Yeah, absolutely. So with data centers, most of them receive their water from the local water utility, so they don't need to get a water withdrawal permit from us. What we do is we work with the water utility, and there's sort of 2 main places we might be involved. One, the water utility may already have all the water that they need, in which case they don't come to us. They kind of work with their water and the users there. Or they might need to come to us for an increased water withdrawal. And then we'd have to work with them through the permitting process, which would not only make sure that the need was there from that water utility, but also make sure that the water resource could support it, that there was enough water at the creek or in the river to support what needed to be done. On the big picture scale, we're thinking about these questions in the context of regional water planning. When we're looking ahead, how are municipalities or water utilities thinking about what industries might be coming in, including data centers? And what does that mean for how much water they think they might use over the next 20, 30 years? And then do we have the water there to support it? Because when I talk to folks about data centers, two things become clear. It's the size of the data center matters a lot, how much energy they're going to use, what that resource capacity is going to be, and then also where they're going to go. So are they going to go someplace that has a lot of these water resources? Are they going someplace that's a little bit more of these smaller headwater creeks? That's going to play a really big difference. So there's not a one-size-fits-all, but we're looking at it through the planning process.
On the air side of that, we work with the power generators to get the permits needed for the increased energy needs, so we do that. We are also working on permitting the emergency generators. These facilities are getting bigger and bigger, so the number of emergency generators is getting larger and larger. So when they get to a certain threshold, our air protection branch has to review and issue a permit for those emergency generators. And we're thinking about ideas on how to make sure that can be protective in the long term, because we don't know how many of these are coming. So we're working on that as what impacts it could be to our overall ambient air quality, and whether or not we need to require those generators to be cleaner than a normal generator. So that's the other part. And we also, if we're an issuing authority for the construction of that facility, we would issue a permit, or if it's the local issuing authority, the county or the city would do that construction notice of intent and land disturbance permits as well.
Well, thank you, and I'm glad to hear that, because that's what I'm telling. Y'all got a great department that's looking at all aspects of those things, and would not have something that wouldn't be appropriate in a certain location. So thank y'all. Appreciate your organization from being available to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just remind the committee, the first bill we voted on this session was House Resolution 1008, which was the requirements they needed to go ahead and more streamline and have effective regional districts. So the regional districts in the Atlanta area, North Georgia Water Planning District, have placed Georgia in a better position than most states in the nation, because we're able to attract business because we know what we have, we know what we can manage, and we're able to make sure quality of life is important. And to the water issue with data centers, it's my understanding that more of our data centers are going to the closed loop system. Could you explain that? Because that might help alleviate some of the concern.
Absolutely. So there are two primary ways that data centers look at for cooling. One is just sort of once through cooling water, they take the water from the water utility, pass it through, and then it gets discharged either directly or back to the water utility. But the water just kind of goes through. Some of it evaporates out, some of it's gone, and some of it gets turned back. In a closed loop, they use a lot less water, and they're able to kind of maintain it within that facility. And those tend to be a little bit more have higher energy needs, but much, much lower water needs. So that's a really important point when thinking about what's being placed where. There are energy and water trade-offs, and in some data centers are now looking at these lower water use models for ensuring cooling.
Thank you. And number 15?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I had a question about the data centers. I'm just curious about. So I know data centers are on everybody's mind, but in the past with businesses, I'm from Gainesville, and the water hasn't ever came up, but I know like we have chicken plants and they use 1.5 to 2 million gallons a day, and that's never been brought up. And I'm just curious about other industries that uses a huge amount of water, and nobody's ever brought this up. And I know data centers are on top of the mind, but do you feel like that we've had industries in Georgia that use a tremendous amount of water? You understand where I'm going with that?
Yeah, I think so. I think that, for me, when I'm thinking about a data center, I try not to think about it as necessarily a data center. I try to think about how much water do they need and what is the capacity of the water resource, because you're exactly right. We have a lot of industries that use quite a bit of water as part of their process. So for us, really, it's about, can this amount of water be used and still be protective of the water resource, still make sure downstream users have enough water, still make sure other users can continue to use that water body. And the amount of water being used by data centers really does fall within that existing spectrum of, some industries are very, very low water use, other industries are higher. They fall in that spectrum.
Follow up. So I guess another question I had was, do you feel like that the data centers and the public are they're scared, I guess, because it is the top of mind, and it's not really, I'm not saying it's not a concern, but we've had all these industries that's used a tremendous amount of water over this whole period, and I guess if the public knew the actual number of how many gallons people use in different industries throughout the state, and I'm not saying it's not a concern, do you think that it's probably the same as what we've always had? It's just because data centers are everybody's terrified of them, things like that. Do you feel like that's the case potentially?
So I think that to sort of flip the question just a little bit, one of the things I really appreciate about the data center discussion is it is really elevating the idea of water planning and regional water planning. I think that these are really good conversations to have, and I think that those are conversations we should always be having about how much water do we have, how do we want to prioritize it, where do we want to use it. So I think that to some extent this is a new industry coming in, people are getting used to it and getting familiar with it, but the fact that it's raising that dialogue about water, I think is great. We're getting more interest in our regional water planning councils. We want to see people really thinking about how their water is used.
Okay. Thank you.
And to tag on to that, we still go back to the local governments have to issue water permits. And so if you've got one industry that's consuming a lot of water and they don't have enough quantity, then that new industry probably won't be able to build there. So that's a baseline control for the whole state of Georgia. So that's another question, but it's amazing how y'all function. You pretty much run land, air, and water.
Some days it runs us, Madam Chair.
Yeah, some days it runs me. All right, so number 11? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think what you're saying, my colleague's saying, and I appreciate what you're saying, is the planning part. And that was my whole frustration 2 years ago when we went down this conversation on data centers was, picking winners and losers on who can have water and who can have electricity. And it happened to be data centers that were the whipping child on the block at that point. But, I sit in Cartersville where we have the #1 customer of Georgia Power for manufacturing, and Gerdau is still their great employer. And we incentivize the use of electricity with no sales tax, which is great. I mean, we've been able to do that. But I think that really goes to the root of having a plan and making sure that we're being mindful of the resources that we have and managing those as best we can, and also continuing to be business-minded and trying to be the #1 state to do business. We're getting there. I think this conversation with the data centers has gotten a lot more clear over the last 2 years than where it was when we first kind of started having these conversations. But I appreciate your response on the planning part.
Thank you.
Is that not true?
We have two more people who want to ask a question, but let's make them brief. We need to be out here in about 4 minutes. So number 25, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director Cowan, my friend, I have a question for you. So y'all have been very helpful to me on some constituent issues. Sedimentation. So when you have a landowner who is surface mining and borrow pit, and sedimentation is affecting their neighbor and really destroying wetlands on an adjacent property, do you have the teeth to stop that? Do you have the teeth to hold bad actors accountable? This is not talking about an accident or a storm event. We're talking about willful neglect. Do you have the teeth and the penalties available to stop people from doing this currently?
I believe we do, but there's always room for improvement. But in the case you're talking about, luckily you were a neighbor to this person and you brought this to their attention. We have 700 plus professionals, but we need every citizen to tell us if there's sediment moving to their stream or something. They need to tell us. Now, the sediment side of it under surface mining, that's pretty much all EPD. But far as sediment on grading and all, it depends. It could be the local county, the local city, who the issuing authority is. So, but the one issue we don't, with sedimentation or any kind of these environmental violations, we have to work through what's called the Administrative Procedures Act that y'all passed, and it's a process. We can't just go out and write a ticket and do that, but we do have good authorities. It's a lot of work, but like I said, we need the citizens to bring these to our attention to deal with. We find some of them a lot of times doing normal inspections, but we, as Anya I think said, that our district offices receive 32 or 300 complaints here. That's coming from citizens, and we do a normal 2,500 inspections. In a combination, you're about 6,000 inspections a year based on these things. So, yes, sir.
Well, I appreciate the good work you do. I just want to make sure we have the ability, to hold folks that are really intentionally, no regard for neighbors. We need to make sure that we're able to hold them accountable. If you ever need my help to help you, if you find that you need more ability to do so, please reach out. Thank you.
I'll be sure to let you know. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And then number 18.
Thank you, thank you, Madam Chair. This might not be a question with a brief answer, but going back to data centers, we have our coastline, which has, from a geological standpoint, prime real estate for injecting carbon into the ground and capturing federal tax credits, which would be excellent for data centers and our mines that are no longer used up in the mountains as well. So aside from the cost and the technical perspective, are there any environmental drawbacks to focusing data centers in those areas?
Go ahead.
So there are a couple of things here. So the carbon sequestration that you're talking about is, from my understanding, best suited for areas of South Georgia, just as you said, a little bit less so up in North Georgia, again, based on the best information that I heard. And so some of the challenges with placing data centers in South Georgia is that access to things like carbon sequestration opportunities is just one kind of piece of the pie that they're looking at. They're looking at things like broadband access, grid access, water access, and so how those pieces might come together, I think, is a really great question. I think there probably are some locations in South Georgia where something like that might be appropriate, where they might be able to make all those pieces fit. But that's just one element, to my understanding, of what they're looking for in siting locations.
And just to add on to that, the data center itself is not the one that's generating the large carbon footprint. It's more the energy generator that supplies the energy to the data center that's the larger carbon footprint. Mm-hmm. And we don't have that program currently, the carbon sequestration program. But we are working with EPA to potentially get that, to have the opportunity to us, if industries want to do it in the future, we can do those permits.
Thank y'all for all of your questions. Thank you for your presentation today. I feel like this was an introductory course in college on everything, but there will be no test. But thank you for giving us people we can call. And then to my committee, don't forget room 228 at 12 o'clock. And then also, as always, pay attention to the announcements. Thank you.
Thank you.